Hello and welcome to another lesson of OnShape for beginners. Today we're going to be making a spirograph, which is this. Basically, it uses a ring gear and a central sun gear and rolls around that ring gear with your pen in a hole in that sun gear to draw really cool shapes. So you can use stars and this kind of circle pattern, and we're going to learn how to make that. It's way easier than you would think. So I'm going to start, same as every other video. Click that blue create button and document. I'm going to name this spirograph. It's a weird word, but that's how you spell it. And different from all the other videos, we're not going to start with a regular sketch. We're going to start with what's called a plugin, which is basically a program that will make some of the CAD for you. In this case, it's going to make the gears for us. So it's going to make this ring gear and this sun gear all for us. We don't have to model it. So it's very important you follow exactly what these steps are so you get the right program. So click on this plus sign for add custom features. And then in here, you're going to type in planetary gears and hit enter. What's going to come up are some projects people have done in OnShape that use planetary gears. You do not want that. You want this filter button, and then click on Feature Studio, and these are the actual programs you can use to make your own gears. So you want to click this top one that says planetary gears with a V2 right there. And then you don't need spur gear for right now. We can make some other videos that use that, but all you need right now is planetary gears. And there we go. It's been added to custom features. So I'm going to use that now. Click on this drop down, click on planetary gears, and click on the plane I want it to make my planetary gears in. So you can play with these numbers quite a bit. So you can make at 43, and that'll change your dimension of the ring gear. I can play with the number of teeth on my sun gear. Let's make that, let's say 18, and see what happens. That sun gear is going to have less teeth. There we go. So just so we can kind of know the words that I'm saying here and what they refer to, let's take a look at what we actually have. So I'm going to type N so I can look right at this. Essentially, the way that planetary gears work is you have a ring gear right here that your planet gear runs along. And that planet gear is connected to your sun gear in the middle. It's called planetary gear set because it's kind of like a solar system with planets, right? Sun, planet, and then it's called the ring gear. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. If I say sun gear, I'm talking about the gear in the center. If I say planet gear, I'm talking about the one on the side. If I say ring gear, I'm talking about the gear on the outside. So if I change the number of sun teeth from 18 to what I actually want, which is 25, you can see the middle gear and correspondingly everything else will change to have smaller teeth, which is going to be 25 teeth. If I change my number of ring teeth from 43 to what I actually want, which is 53, you can see that my ring gear is going to get bigger. And there we go. The last change that I need to make here is, I guess I already made that change before. This sun pitch circle diameter. So standard is probably going to say 25 millimeters. And that will work for your spirograph, but I found it works a little bit better, given that this gets a lot smaller if you do that. It works a little bit better if you go with 30 millimeters instead. And then it's just, as standard, going to have 5 millimeters for your extrude depth, and I'll show you what that is, and it's going to have this unchecked. So extrude depth is just how thick your gears are. And as you can see in our pictures of actual spirographs right here, they're pretty thin gears. That's because you need your pen to be able to reach through the gear onto the sheet of paper. And if it were really thick, then the pen wouldn't be able to reach all the way through the gear before it hit the really wide part of the pen, and you wouldn't be able to draw on your paper. So we need to change this thickness from 5 millimeters to 2 millimeters. if it'll let me do that. There we go. And you can keep Xing out of this blue box up here. Basically, it's just telling you what the gear ratios are going to be if you use your Planetary gears as an actual gearbox. You're not doing that for this program or this project, so you can kind of ignore it. And then the last thing that we're going to check is this backlash box. Essentially, all that does is it shrinks the gear by just a little tiny bit. So if I click that, you'll see it's going to shrink it just a very little bit, like that. And what that does is it makes your gears fit a little bit better together, just with what 3D printing tolerances we have. So as long as you have these numbers, you should be good. 25, 14, 53 with a sun pitch circle diameter of 30 millimeters and an extrude depth of 2 millimeters. Should be all set to go. So green check mark. Now, the nice thing about this program is that it makes each gear its own separate part. And as you can see from our spirograph, we only need the ring gear and the sun gear. We don't need the planet gear. So I can find the planet gear, looks like it's part 2, right click on it and click delete, and then green check mark, and that'll get rid of it. And now I have the 2 gears that I need, my sun gear and my ring gear. You'll also notice, if we look back at the spirograph here, that it's not just a ring gear and that's it. There's a little bit of plastic over here, and that's usually, and again on this one, that's usually so that you can hold it down to the sheet of paper and it won't slide around. Because if you only have a little bit here, it's not very easy to hang on to and keep in the same spot. So we are going to use extrusion to add a little bit of material there. So I'm going to click the surface I want to extrude off of, type N, so I'm looking right at it, and click sketch. So for this sketch, I am going to grab a center point circle, put it pretty much anywhere I want in about this area, and pretty much any size I want. So I'm going to go that big. I'm not even going to change it from 14.463. That's all I really need. And then I'm going to click use, and I want this outside circle. And then I'm going to click line. There we go. Click line and grab the top of this circle and bring it to the very center on that circle. And then I'm going to click escape, and I'm going to use mirror. Select my mirror line is the first thing it tells me to do. So that's going to be this line right here. And then it says select entities to be mirrored. That's going to be our circle and our line. And there we go. Now I'm going to use a line to connect this circle to this one. There we go, and click escape to get out of my line tool. You can see it's no longer highlighted blue. And then I'm going to use my trim tool to get rid of this outside part of my circle. Ah, shoot, that got rid of the whole circle. Control Z to undo that. And it looks like I only need this part of the circle. So we can do that in a different way. Trim this again. And let's use a center point arc. So I'm going to make this my center point and grab that point and grab that point. And now I have my arc right here. And I just need to trim these circles away so that I have a completely enclosed sketch. Like that. Now, if you want to, you can also mirror all of this over to the other side so you have the same kind of handle on both sides. I'm just going to do it on one side. So I'm going to click my green check mark here and click extrude. I'm going to extrude this new sketch that I just made. If I rotate here, you can see that is not extruding the way I want it to. So I'm going to flip the direction and change it to be the same thickness as the rest of my spirograph, which is 2 millimeters. There we go, green check mark. But you can see it made it its own separate part. So let's see if we can double click back into our extrude one here and say add and merge with all. Looks like it's not going to let us do that. That's okay. We can still make it new and it'll still work. just like that. There we go. And then the next one, the last thing that we have to do is add our holes on our spirograph. So you can see how there are these holes. We're only going to add 3. We don't need all these holes, but you can put them wherever you want. So grab this front face here, type N, so we're looking right at it. And then I'm going to grab my circle tool. Oh, sorry, I didn't start the sketch. Click Sketch, grab my circle tool, and make a circle in the very center like this. And I want this circle to be 3 millimeters in diameter. So I just click or type 3, hit enter, and there we go. And I want multiple of these holes all in a line. So I'm going to use the pattern, linear pattern feature. So I click that, I click what I want to pattern, and then it'll pattern it for me. This is way further out than I want. So I'm going to change this to be 5.5 millimeters. And that puts my circles where I want them to be. So green check mark and extrude. And I'm going to click on that sketch that I just made. And I'm going to click remove because I want to cut material away, just like that. Green check mark. And then the very last thing I want to do is add a little bit of a chamfer on these edges because when you 3D print something, sometimes it will spread across the bed a little bit and not give you the exact geometry you're looking for on the very first layer. And so we're going to use a chamfer to kind of fight that a little bit. So chamfer right here, just to break that edge. And click this front face, and click this front face. And this is saying 3.03 millimeters. That's obviously way too big. So we're going to go 0.3 millimeters. And let's see what that does. It's going to take a little bit to think, load. Let's grab that face too. Or it's going to take a lot of time to think and load. Let's try it again. I'm going to X out of that chamfer, make a new chamfer, change this to be 0.3 before I even start, and grab that face. There we go. Now you can see I've got my chamfer on that edge, and let's just make it on both edges so that it looks good. There we go. And there we have it. There is a spirograph. If we print this off, then we can use this to draw really cool star and circle patterns. So, thanks for watching. Let me know when you get this done and we can get it printed off.